Hi, and thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to actually cover Chapter 1. This is the lecture part of the day. And in Chapter 1 we're going to look at whole numbers and what is our numbering system based off of. And it is the decimal system. It's a base 10 system. It's the American standard, so base 10 means 0 all the way through 9. There's 10 digits. And the numbers on the left, when you write down a number, those are considered whole numbers. And then your decimal point right here in the middle is what separates whole numbers and decimal numbers, which is to the right. And when you say "and," that also signifies a decimal point. So, for example, we have trillions, billions, millions, thousands, units, and this number 2,486,572,170,481. And is my decimal point, and if I want to make it and 18. So that'd be continuing on, and we'll cover that in Chapter 3. But Chapter 1 is fairly basic. It covers a lot of the review concepts that hopefully you've learned in previous classes in high school or whatnot. But a couple things that they did emphasis and focus on or emphasize was rounding, and they did two versions. They had a specific rounding, and they talked about rounding all the way. And when you talk about specific rounding, that means, okay, our number 14,682. If I wanted to round to the nearest 100, I have to look at the number before. And so I look at this number before my 100 number. And we see that it's an 8. Since it's above 5, that means we're going to round up. So the nearest rounding would become 14,700. Now if it's not above 5 or 5 and above, then you keep that number the same, except for when you're rounding all the way. Now, in my business experience, my real big hit job, I work with a renewable energy company, and I focus on all of our new business development. And so I look at the financials to see if we should proceed in developing a certain renewable energy project. And never have I heard the term round all the way, but a practical example would be if you're at the grocery store, you have $35, and you wanted to kind of figure out it, except for actually adding up each specific number. Oh, I got bananas for 89 cents, that's $1. I got apricots for $1.25. Well, I'm going to round that down to $1, and so you can use rounding all the way for just quick math at the grocery store. So that's a practical example. But what it does is you only have one non-zero digit. So if we look at this number, 345,999. Okay, if I wanted to round all the way, I've got to look at the last digit and then the number on the right. So it's a 4. Since 4 is below 5, we don't round up. We actually will round down because we only want one number. So that number is 300,000. So that's rounding all the way. Some of the main concepts that they talked about deal with the different areas. The basics of the math, which is your addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So when you add two numbers together, you get the sum. When you have a number and you take away the other number, so a minuend minus a subtrahend, you have the difference. Those terms aren't really used frequently, except for difference. So if you hear that word or you see that in a problem, you know you need to implement subtraction. In multiplication, you have the multiplicand and the multiplier to get your product. And then in division, you have your dividend divided by your divisor to get your quotient. Now on some of the problems, especially in division, give me the remainder. Don't give me 0.16667, because that shows that you did it on a calculator. To do it by hand, actually give me what you came up with your remainder as a number. So for example, if we have 520 divided by 6, how does that work? Well, does 6 go into 5? No, but can 6 go into 52? Yeah, I can go in 8 times. we have 48. So 52 minus 48 is 4. Can 6 go into 4? No. But you bring down your 0, and 6 can go into 40. How many times? 6 times. You have 36, so you have a remainder of 4. So the answer would be 86 with a remainder of 4. If you did it by calculator, it'd actually say 86.66667, because it's 2/3. 4/6 is 2/3. So if you did it that way, I'd actually know that you did it by calculator, and you actually won't get the credit for at least these problems. Some issue areas where people have had problems with multiplication are some zeros. They toss it in. They toss a wrench into the works. So let's do this real quick. 658 times 403. So 3 times 8 is 24, so we carry our 4. 3 times 5 is 15, add our 2, we have 17, so we have 7. Carry the 1. 3 times 6 is 18, plus our 1 is 19. So our partial product is 1974. Well, now we move on to the next number, so we carry our 0, and we start, oh look, it is a 0, so we're going to carry that over 2. So we just drop it down. So we now have 2 zeros, and we're going to go to the next number. So 4 times 8 is 32, so I write down my 2, and I carry my 3. 4 times 5 is 20, plus 3 is 23, so I carry my 3, I have my 3, and I carry my 2. 4 times 6 is 24, add my 2 is 26, I have my 26, 3200. So I add those together, and I get 265,174. So that's some quick hints on how to do multiplication as well. We will cover a lot of word problems, and so predominantly there's 4 main steps to solving word problems. First off, it's what are the facts? What do I know about the problem? The second one is solving for what? What am I actually looking for? What is the answer that I need to find out? How am I going to get there? So what steps am I going to take to figure out the answer? And then is there any key points that actually might help me solve it out quicker? And for your benefit, we're actually going to look at one of your homework problems, which will be due this Sunday, September 4th at midnight. And we're going to look at 48, number 48 in chapter 1. And it says, and we're going to use these 4 steps for solving word problems. And I've got some of my notes up here, and then I want to work it out to help you understand. It says, an education can be key to higher earnings. In the U.S. Census Bureau study, high school graduates earned $30,400 a year. Associate's degree earned $38,200 a year. Bachelor degree earned $52,200 a year. Assuming a 50-year work life, calculate the lifetime earnings of a high school graduate, associate graduate, and a bachelor degree graduate. What's the lifetime income difference between a high school graduate and an associate's degree? And then what's the difference between a high school student, graduate, and a bachelor degree? So we have quite a few different things, but let's walk through our 4 steps. Facts. Well, we know how much each student makes on average, or each graduate makes on average, and we know how many years for the total working life. So what are we solving for? Well, it says specifically, calculate each income, and then calculate the difference between associate's degree in a high school student and a bachelor degree in high school income. And so we're going to do some quick basic math to figure out question 48 for you. So along the way, we're also going to look at some shortcuts. Sometimes doing longhand math can take some time, and so we're going to try to figure out if there's ways to kind of get around and speed things along. So I've got 50 years. I want to figure out how much a high school student graduate actually would make. So we're going to do multiplication. I have the zeros. Can they play to my benefit? They actually can. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring the 0 down, I'm going to bring that next one down, I'm going to bring that next one down, and then I'm just going to do my math with my 5. So 5 times 4 is 20, carry my 2. 5 times 0 is 0, but I carry my 2. 5 times 3, so 0 plus 2 is 2, and then 5 times 3 is 15. And so I get 1,520,000 for how much a high school student makes. We're going to do the same math for each of these below to figure out. 40, carry my 1, 4, 15, 19. So an associate's degree makes 1,910,000, whereas a bachelor degree makes $2,610,000. So let me write those out to the side on each of these so you can see them. So this is how much each student should make over a 50-year lifetime. And then it asked us to figure out what is the difference between a bachelor degree and a high school student, and what is the difference between an associate's degree and a high school student graduate. And so what do we need to do? What is the difference? We need to do subtraction. So for each one, we're just going to subtract the amount that the high school graduate made, and we're going to do simple subtraction. Carry 9, 0, 1. So the difference between a bachelor degree student and a high school student is $1,000,090,000. Would you like an additional $1 million? I know I would. Let's figure out what the difference is between an associate degree and a high school student. So I'm just writing my number that we figured out on how much a high school student makes. So a difference of $390,000. Is there only one way to figure out a math problem? There's not. There's always quite a few routes. Another way that we could actually do this is by looking at the salaries and doing the difference of those and then timesing it by the years. So we could have done it 52,200 minus 30,400 gets me a difference of 21,800. Now, that's how much more a bachelor degree student will make each year, more than a high school student graduate. So we also have to play in our 50-year working life cycle. So I'm going to times that by 50. So I got 5 times 8 is 40. So I bring down my 0, carry my 4. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 4 is 9, and then 5 times 2 is 10. So look at that, 1,090,000. It's the same number we got here by doing it the longer route. And I bet if you work it out, 38.2 minus 34 times 50 will come up to 390,000. Why don't you check that one? But otherwise, you've got question 48 figured out. So thanks for checking out Chapter 1, and I look forward to explaining Chapter 2 to you. Thanks.